It's been 150 years at least since blacks were relevant and important within the Republican Party. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in April of 1865 by individuals who conspired to bring the South back to rallying, I guess, for a second time in a war against the North, to have the South rise again. But actually, Lincoln's killing had a opposite effect. It made him a martyr, and it actually brought the rise of the radical Republicans. In 1866, it took majorities, large majorities, in the House and Senate. The radical Republicans would be the equivalents today of progressive Democrats. And it was under the leadership of radical Republicans that Reconstruction was initiated. Reconstruction, of course, was a government assisted, well, actually, a government directed, not even really assisted, directive to basically have black people who were once slaves uh, put in positions of respectability and authority. At the time, being that the Confederates, these one-time leaders in the South, they were not able to vote. They were not able to be elected to office. Blacks took over, and you had black people in positions. Remember, there was a military presence down south, so it wasn't any shenanigans. At least uh, it wasn't supposed to be. But ultimately, you did have the rise of KKK and other groups like that. But blacks were appointed to positions like postal workers, clerks, um, jobs that would have been unthinkable years earlier. Even elected officials, United States representatives, and even a U.S. senator like Hiram Revels, okay, all in the South. Black men were allowed to vote in huge numbers. As a matter of fact, black men were responsible for the election of Ulysses S. Grant, and I'll tell you why. Ulysses S. Grant was a war hero, all right? He, of course, was the leader of the Union Army during the Civil War, well, in the latter stages of the Civil War. And he was enormously popular in the North. And most people thought, because, remember, many of the southern states still hadn't been allowed to vote yet, but most people thought that Grant was going to win by a large margin. But even the Electoral College vote ended up being pretty substantial, 214 for Grant, 80 for his Democratic opponent, Horatio A. Seymour of New York. The popular vote wasn't all that impressive, 53% to 47%. Should have been by at least 10, 11 points. So what happened? Well, the Democrats ran a very racist campaign, basically saying that, hey, the Republicans want the mongrels to take over. You know what I mean by that. That scared white folks. A lot of white folks ended up voting for Seymour, and the vote was a lot closer. Matter of fact, if you take the black vote out, Seymour might have beaten Grant, and he probably would have. And those who have been racist in our society in the past have always thwarted black success. We know about Rosewood. We know about Black Wall Street. What's not as well known, and what they should do a movie about one day, is the Wilmington insurrection of 1898. Wilmington was a very prosperous city in the late 1890s, and it was the most progressive city in the South. It had a bipartisan government. What I mean by that is those who were in positions of authority were blacks and progressive whites. Many residents of Wilmington, even though the leadership was progressive for its time, very progressive, were still tied in the dyed wool racists. And the press in Wilmington was, for the most part, very racist. They did not like the government that was in control because in Wilmington, black people could vote, at least for the time being. Wilmington had a very large black presence at that time. But what happened was a series of events. The press played a role in it. Racist local leaders played a role in it. Even state leaders outside of Wilmington played a role in this. They demonized the black man. They said that the mongrel was going to take over. He's going to fuck your white women. He's going to do all of these different things, playing into white fear. And ultimately, what you had was the grand insurrection where you had people, these racist motherfuckers, they ran and broke into government offices and they literally chased the elected officials out of Wilmington. These white supremacists took over, assumed these offices, even though they hadn't been elected, because hey, when this legal legalities uh, toward them. We got a guy right now who's telling you that somehow the Democrats pulled off this huge nationwide fraud, even though Trump lost by 7 million popular votes. But anyway, I say all these things to get to this point, man. The Republican Party today is far from what it once was 150 years ago. It's transitioned to become pretty much what the Democratic Party used to be back in the 1860s and 70s, a white supremacist party. Okay? The Republican Party to me is a white Christian slash white supremacist party. And in today's Republican Party, black Republicans only serve one purpose, and that is to be a black face to spout white supremac talking points. Because, hey, if a black person is saying this, that validates our racism or perceived racism. And that's the only role that a Larry Elder or an Allen West or a Herschel Walker or a Candace Owens or a Jason Whitlock, I'm assuming he's Republican, or Jesse Lee Peterson, any of these bums have. They only are put out there when there's a topic of race involved. Why don't we ever see these motherfuckers go out there and talk about real issues? I don't hear Jesse Peterson talking about, anything dealing with this country's foreign policy. They only trot these coons out. They only trot these jigaboos out when they want to criticize black people, the black community, or or an existing policy. Oh, another time they only brought them out too is when Obama was president. That's when you really saw the rise of the coon. But something interesting I've noticed, and it proves my point about how useless these motherfuckers are. Have you noticed that when it comes to Larry Elder, when it comes to Allen West and Herschel Walker, how the Republican Party isn't so enthralled with their candidacy, how the electorate responds to them? Larry Elder single handedly is handing the election to Gavin Newsom. A month ago, 6 weeks ago, Gavin Newsom was losing in the recall vote via polls by double digits. It looked like he was going to lose. I'm going to tell you something. If Gavin Newsom was running for his political life and the leading Republican candidate was Arnold Schwarzenegger now, with the popularity he had 20 years ago, Gavin Newsom would be toast, as was Gray Davis back in 2003. Hell, if Gavin Newsom was running for his political life today and the Republican nominee was maybe somebody like goddamn, I don't know, off the top of my head, Sylvester Stallone or something, he'd still be political toast. But because Larry Elder is Larry Elder, and he is so polarizing with his views, um, he will not get a lot of black support. White people have an issue, in my opinion. A lot of the racist ones, at least, they have an issue with a black person being in a position of authority. You know why? Because they don't fully trust a black person. Oh yeah, you might talk a good game, but we still look at you as a nigger. You know, you might still get to that governor's mansion and look out for your own people, because that's what we do. So that's why, single-handedly, Larry Elder has handed the election to Gavin Newsom. The last couple of polls had Newsom uh, winning as far as the recall vote by 10 to 20 points. So, Larry Elder, the Democratic Party thanks you for being such a political pariah. Alan West, meanwhile, is trying to run for the Republican nomination in Texas, and Greg Abbott has already set it up so that his wife was arrested on drunk driving violations and charges, right? Which are probably bullshit. But hey, that's the thanks you get Alan West for being the so-called Republican chairman of Texas. But see, when they want to put a nigger in his place, they'll do that. And Herschel Walker, good lord, I mean, that's just an embarrassment. Does anybody really think that Herschel Walker is going to be elected into the United States Senate? The man can barely read. He can scarcely talk. Then you add into the record that this guy has multiple personality disorder and the fact that he has a history of domestic violence and he looks like a big fucking monkey. And I'm not even saying that to be fucking funny. I'm saying it because I have very little respect for black Republicans. They're sellout, jigaboo, coon ass niggas. So he's nothing but a big ass fucking stupid gorilla to me. Fuck that nigga. Because he's a fuck him. You know what I'm saying? But think about it. Have any of these motherfuckers ever been politically, um, have they ever been like, with the exception of very few cases, these guys, they never show any electoral uh, danger. When I say danger, I mean like a force. They're not forces. Alan Keyes, when he ran against Obama back in 2004, Obama beat this motherfucker by 40 points. 40. But Alan Keyes is supposed to be this scholar and this constitutional, brilliant. They don't give a fuck about that. All they see is a fucking nigga in a suit. A nigga trying to impersonate a white person. That's what they see. So Larry Elder can hang around as many white folks as he wants to. At the end of the day, you're only a useful tool for white supremacy. All of them. That's it. That's all they are. All of them. All of them. even the few token ones that are in position, uh, like Tim Scott, I think in South Carolina, J.C. Watts a long time ago, Oklahoma representative, they'll never be in position where they really can acquire power. Never. Even the what is he? The Attorney General of Kentucky. Most likely, he'll never be in a position where he really acquires great power because the Republican Party, the racist motherfuckers, they don't want that. They don't want to take direction from a nigga. At least the Democratic Party can say we had Barack Obama. At least the Democratic Party can say we've had black congressional chairs. We've had elder statesmen in the Democratic Party. They can at least fucking say that. They're still racist motherfuckers, but at least they had the decency to have some motherfuckers in position of authority. Republican parties in recent years, they haven't had that. So to me, which one's the plantation now? Because you motherfuckers, y'all have no power. So that's all I got to say on this one.